Bueno, buenas tardes.
Hello, are you there? Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start the side event regarding Mercosidades and the challenges of the transition towards a new energy model in Latin America. We're escorted here by several representatives from the region, but we thought it was important to quickly initiate by sharing with you what these Mercosidades are all about. Mercosidades is actually a network which is 25 years old. We're actually getting there now. And it is composed today by 361 cities in Latin America, actually in South America, cities in Venezuela, in Ecuador, in Colombia, etc., not just in Mercosur. It's 10 countries. You can read them there. Quantitatively, we represent over 120 million inhabitants. Our cities are very diverse, very different in their nature, in their demography. There are huge metropoles, huge metropolitan areas, intermediate cities, and small towns. Our network actually works totally horizontally. As we can see here in this slide, there is an assembly. It's the highest body, which is integrated by 361 mayors, and mayors which are who are the highest ranking authorities in our cities. So they integrate that assembly. Then there is a consultative group. There are several working groups. We call those thematic units. Then there is a presidency. As of this year, it's the city of Tandil, which I have the honor to represent as an executive secretary of the network. There are 5 vice presidents. One of them is in charge actually of urban development, of the effects and the needs to define policies regarding the mitigation of climate change. There is a vice presidency of social development and health. There's the vice president of culture. It is a very horizontal organization, I insist, and we cater for all areas of the agendas of our cities. And the permanent secretary has been carrying the history of this network, and it's been based in Montevideo for this past 25 years. These figures will give you an idea of how fast we've been growing lately. As a network in 1991, which was our founding year, we were just a dozen cities. And if you continue the historical timeline, we came to be 40 cities in 2000, up until, like I said, 361 today. We are growing cities, and there are very many member cities, and we've been re-signifying the themes that we deal with. And they actually have to do with the local agendas. And those themes are around the search for inclusiveness, equality in our towns, for the quality of the economies. We deal with the improvement of the quality of life of our inhabitants. We want them to have some dignified labor, some good sources of income, good and decent housing, etc. So we deal with very many themes, as I say. We have an overarching theme, which is sustainable development, and is at the core of the SUM 21 Bilbao summit. So, at the end of the day, our mission, as I was saying, tries to improve the identity and regional integration in order to guarantee the development of cities and the well-being in South America. Our vision has to do with integrated, inclusive, and participative cities, and we could actually add to all of that that the motto of our network since last year, and it would be so also up until the end of this year, will be to sustainably develop our cities and to develop our cities with our citizens. What does that mean, to develop our cities with our citizens? That means with the institutions, with the employers, with trade unions, with funding institutes, with innovating centers, because there is no possible development without any of those, without any and all of those, actually. What are the benefits for participating in such a network? There are very many. We'll just share with you the ones that have the most to do with what we are dealing with today. So we do regional project financings, we do international meetings regarding the different thematic axes I was speaking to you about before. We do participation in political lobbying and proposition spaces at the regional and world level. We have a visibility for the good practices and access to specialists in several areas of local management. We are part of spaces for capacity building and exchange at the United Nations. And regional initiatives that we do, we have a cooperation for a program for cooperation South-South, and we have developed what we call City University Observatory. And when we say university, it's mostly public universities. We've built a good practices or best practices bank, and we are trying to solve the problems of our citizens, men and women, by trying to intervene in specific, very specific and concrete ways. I was speaking before about multicultural and intercultural and diverse cities. That's what we are. And therefore, we try to give visibility to this diversity by creating a campaign called Merco Cities, the diversity that there is in you. You know that in Latin America, diversity is very important in local political agendas because there's a huge displacement, a huge transition of people from other countries. That's a circumstance that is also known to cities here in Spain. Therefore, the mobility in our cities is a very important matter, and we have to think of that regarding gender perspective, age perspective, and diversity perspective. We are also trying to consolidate the Institute for Tourism of Merco cities. And last but not least, I'll say that this is basically a political network which underpins these cities, but we also have some international entities that are members of this network. There are several examples, but I don't want to take too long. I'll just say, I'll give you our emails. And without further ado, I'm going to show you a video. Let's see if we can do that so that you can have a visual impression of what we mean. For United South America, says the video, which is inclusive, solidarious, participative, for a region in which cities, says the video, are organized and keep together, we overcome difficulties, we learn from each other, we appreciate the richness, the wealth, the cultural diversity of our region, join our experience, join Merco cities, participate in this community in order to build new ways, new strengths. We're strong enough in order to deal with our future. Thank you. 25th anniversary of Merco cities. Thank you very much, says the speaker. And without further ado, as part of the side event, we have representatives here from cities in Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and we have also the online participation of somebody from La Paz in Bolivia. So please, the first representative, it's going to be Lautaro Lorenzo, who represents the city of Esteban Echeverria. The next presidency of the network starting December 13th. They are actually in charge of the vice presidency of urban sustainable development and climate change. Lautaro Lorenzo, please. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, men and women. Thank you. Big thanks to the organizers of Sun Bilbao for giving us this space. The Vice Presidency of Urban Sustainable Development, we share it actually with the municipality of San Leopoldo. They're not here today with us today, and they're doing a great work as well. So the idea of this presentation, of my presentation, would be to let you know about how we face sustainability in Latin America by giving you an example of the city, or the example of the city of Esteban Echeverria. This is the map of the metropolitan area of Buenos Aires. And this little triangle that you see down there to the south is Esteban Echeverria. It's about 40 to 50 minutes of the center of the autonomous city of Buenos Aires. The metropolitan area of Buenos Aires counts around 14 million inhabitants. It's one of the largest cities in Latin America. In order to contextualize, municipality has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 smaller municipalities or sub municipalities. We are, demographically speaking, we're very heterogeneous. 10% of the people are migrants. We have around 372,000 inhabitants. We are an intermediate city in a metropolitan area context in an emerging country. A very important data regarding internet. In 2008, there were only 19 of areas covered by sewage. Today, we actually have 80% of the area which is covered by sewage, and we have a sewage and waste plant with the capacity for dealing with 300,000 inhabitants, and it has the possibility of keeping up with up to 600,000 people, so that'd be good up until 2040. Regarding the water supply, we have the area of Buenos Aires has a very good water table, very good aquifer, and we have created inverse osmosis plants. There are 5 water plants, and we have built 5 of those because in some areas it's not easy to, in some areas in our municipality it's not easy to get to the underground waters. So, speaking about water, we've had a problem with floods. We've done many things in order to avoid those. More than 20,000 people benefited from some works. More than 45,000 others benefited by other, and more than 25,000 others benefited by other water projects in order to avoid floods. We have a privileged situation in the metropolitan area of Buenos Aires. We are between the Sisa-Cunola Highway and the Richetti Highway. One of them connects directly with the obelisk in downtown Buenos Aires, and the other connects us with the south of the province of Buenos Aires. So we could actually go to La Plata without going through Buenos Aires. That's why our city is a very important cluster for logistics. So, from the strategic planning, we've been trying to improve the logistical capacity that we have. We have very well-known companies such as the first power appliances distributors in Argentina, and the main mail center in Argentina, and other logistics and distribution centers, which are major hubs for that in Argentina. We want to build intelligent, resilient, and safe cities, and in order to do that, we create monitoring centers. We use cameras in a smart manner in order to guarantee safety and security, and also in order to foresee any possible emergencies in order to prevent them. And during the pandemic, actually, we did great use of those. In order to build resilience and face climate change, we created a 700-hectare natural reserve. It's called the Rocha Lagoon, or Rocha Lagoon. It's a protected area, a nature protected area, and we wanted to have that for the people, and also to create a buffer area regarding possible future floods. We've made permanent progress regarding the renovation of street lights. We changed all of that into LED lamps. We have waste recycling and waste treatment plans and projects that have been implemented. And we have a strategic plan for mobility that enabled us about 10 years ago to understand to better deal with the population growth that we have in our area. And we worked in an articulate manner with the police and with the national government in order to promote the necessary works to improve in the sustainability and mobility. It's very important to develop the public areas as well. we've created 27 new squares. We've generated 60 new green areas, 78 new places in total in our district, and more. We created more than 300 playground places as well. These are part of the public spaces strengthening plan. And last but not least, such as Marcela Pretantrone was saying, December the 1st, the 2nd, and 3rd, we will organize the Mercosidades Summit, the 26th Summit, and we actually invite any interested people to come over to tell us about your experiences and to generate all types of exchange. Please participate. This is going to be a hybrid summit, just like Zoom Bilbao. We're going to have in-person participation and online participation. We'll guarantee that all spaces be able to function properly, not just for speaking and talking, but also to be able to guarantee some strong and sincere debate. Thank you very much for everything, and now leave the floor. Thank you very much, Lautaro. The turn now to Richard Delgado. He comes from Uruguay, our brother country for Argentina. He's director of planification, urban planification in the city of Montevideo. So please, can you take the floor? So Vice President of the Institutional Relations of Montevideo City Council. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Zoom, for the organization and invitation. We represent the Mobility Department in which I work, and we actually belong to the sect of mobility, right? So I'm going to do a presentation in order to give some context to where we are, in order to show you the challenges that we face. So what are we speaking about? We're speaking about Uruguay. Uruguay is a country which is between Brazil and Argentina. They are brothers to us, some of our brothers in the continent. Montevideo is the capital city. It's the mother city of a big metropolitan area, which has 2 departments. We have 19 departments in our country. We have a total population of about 3.5 million. The metropolitan area of Montevideo has about a little bit over 2 million, and Montevideo, the capital city, has around 1.4 million people. So in a nutshell, this metropolitan area of Montevideo has 60% of the population of the country. The capital of the department contains about 40% of the people, and 96% of the people in the metropolitan area is urban population. And that's very important when we speak about mobility and when we speak about sustainability. Some other important question when we speak about demographics and about the territory is the low density that the Department of Montevideo has. We have about 2.6 thousand inhabitants per square kilometer, and its urban area is 7.5 thousand, and Buenos Aires is about 15,000. Any European city. I was reading about Bilbao, 16, 17, 18,000 inhabitants per square meter. Barcelona has even more than that. So we in Montevideo has a very peculiar feature. We have dispersed population. We are an extended city with a low population density. So this is going to impose some challenges upon us when speaking about mobility. And as I was, as our Argentinian brother was saying before, we have to think about mobility together with the territorial urban policies. So, if we delve a little bit deeper into the matter, we wanted to share with you some figures based um, on the mobility research that we've been doing here, together with the CAF, PNUD, and other international bodies. So we've been doing a survey. We have two surveys, 2009 and 2016 one. And it shows the distribution of the total number of trips. In 2009, 43% of trips were motorized, privately motorized. What does that mean? Well, that means, people using their own motorbikes, their own cars, or their own vans or trucks. 40% were made in bus, and 11% were bicycles or walking. And we've heard many times here, also in the introduction by Marcela, we analyze and we reflect upon the mobility, right? Well, surveys regarding mobility did not take into account small trips up until 2015, because people used to say that was part of your daily living, which didn't have an impact on the true transportation in the city. But a lot of things that have happened since then, and now when we have a gender perspective, we hear that all small displacement have a lot to do with the daily living in families. So care trips have a lot to do with those small displacements that were actually not part of surveys and the administrations didn't used to take into account. So there you say 11% we said bicycles or walking. Bicycle riding or walking, if it's more than 10 blocks. You see, more than 10 blocks. We didn't do surveys for small trajects. It was more than 10 blocks. So, in some neighborhoods in Montevideo, those small trips are very important. So what's the tendency in general? The tendency of motorized transportation is for it to grow to 46% of motorized, private motorized transportation. Bus is 38%, and bicycle riding and walking, it's 12%. What's the tendency here? We have more private motorized displacements, so more cars, more motorbikes, a little bit less bus, and a sort of stability for bicycle riding and walking. But if we see the gap between motorized and transportation and public transportation, it goes from 3% to 8%. So that is a worrying tendency. Private transportation goes up, public transportation goes down. We're trying to do research into that trend. We think that COVID has had an impact to reinforce that, actually. And we believe that there's a sort of fear, coming from many citizens to use public transportation on account of COVID. And that's a base tendency that we used to have before the pandemic, and now it's probably been reinforced, as I said. So, what's the goal of the administration, the goal of our city? It is to promote some accessible, inclusive, safe, and secure, sustainable mobility. But the great change is actually that together with the new paradigm of mobility, we used to think that the important thing were the trips, with the transportation in itself. But we think that the center now, the focus now, is the person. And mobility is a fundamental right of the people, we think. Following the old paradigm, people were like goats that needed to be transported, right? But now people are at the center of the strategies for mobility and transportation. So we wanted to share with you what we're doing already regarding active mobility. As regards the promotion of bicycles, Montevideo has 58 kilometers of infrastructure exclusively dedicated to bicycles. That's part of what we call the Red Cicloviaria Montevideo, the Montevideo bike cycling lanes. And we try to promote bicycles and new personal mobility vehicles. We try to promote those and get the best conditions for walking, for people who actually walk our neighborhoods, who walk our city. We mean to promote active mobility. We have a few projects for that. We're trying to extend our bicycle lane network. We're trying to create a new public bicycle lending system. And as I was saying, we are very dispersed. We have a very big surface in Montevideo. That's why the central city has been expanded into the peripheries, into the suburbs. People wanted to have an access to lower costing housing, right? So that means that there is an infrastructure deficit in those suburbs, in those new neighborhoods. The municipality is working with a new plan, which is part of the policies of the new administration, in order to create new capacities for mobility in neighborhoods who lack infrastructure. We're trying to create sidewalks and bike lanes for those areas. One of the goals that we have for the current 5-year plan regards emissions. We have created the inventory of greenhouse effect gas, according to some report of the national government. And for Montevideo, transportation generates 55% of emissions. This is the 2018 report, because newer reports were totally changed by the pandemic, so they're no longer reliable, so to say. So we are trying to promote sustainable and electric mobility. I belong to the transportation department, and we are coordinating with the environmental department in order to do that, to promote this. We have a high capacity in renewable energies in our country, and that's an asset that we have, which Montevideo wants to benefit from. we want to massively electrify public transportation in 2021. We have 31 electric buses, which are already part of the public transportation of Montevideo. We have 1,500 units, 1,500 buses in Montevideo. We also have 78 electric taxis. We have about 3,000 taxis in total in Montevideo. So we're working around that. We're working with businesses, with companies. The Montevideo service is regulated. It's actually the town which regulates that, but the companies which actually perform the services are private companies. So there are several challenges. There are subsidies. There are, very many things to be managed regarding public transportation. In relation with that, when trying to decarbonize public collective transportation, we're working around two metropolitan corridors. The one from the old city, the old center to Pando, and another corridor, which crosses the whole department of Montevideo, going through the Avenue of Italy and through the department of Canelones. So we are actually connecting metropolitan areas when doing that, when creating those corridors. We also are trying to recuperate some older public transportation lines which were not working because some neighborhoods actually had a deficit in public transportation. We used to have 20 lines, 20 public transportation lines, and we have improved the accessibility and the connectivity to 50,000 new people in the department. In order to promote a healthy and sustainable and safe city, we are working together considering the number of deaths. Montevideo has 6 people every 1,000 people, which are 6 deaths out of every 1,000 people. And that's actually for traffic accidents. And we want to actually lower that in order to promote we want to do that by promoting new strategies. And last but not least, we have an urban mobility plan, which was created for the period 2010 to 2020. We're actually revisioning that plan. And we're actually dealing with these new goals that we have in order to generate a new plan for the next 15 years as regards mobility. It's great challenges because this plan must be one where mobility meets urban planning, because we are part of the general urban planning schemes, and that's all on my part. I will leave you with this reflection. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Richard Delgado from Montevideo. We have to be careful with time, so now we would ask our friends from Brazil. They come from São Leopoldo. It's Pedro Azevedo Vasconcelos and Anderson. They are part of the prefecture of São Leopoldo in Brazil. And he's co-vice President of Urban Development and Climate Change, as Lautaro was saying. So please come over. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I wanted to thank uh, the municipality of Bilbao and Petronor, who are the organizers of this event. Thank you very much, Marcela, for this invitation to our network. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here uh, to present our experience in San Leopoldo and also to learn from the experiences in other cities in San Bilbao. I'm going to be very brief. I want to speak about the experience that we have in San Leopoldo, but also of the larger uh, um, environmental crisis that we are undergoing right now. San Leopoldo is in the southernmost area of the country. We are near Porto Alegre. We're part of the larger Porto Alegre, and we have a very in Brazil right now. We have a pretty particular context. We see some images impacting you. This image actually does not represent us, as you see, because we know the whole South American continent is not a huge forest, right? We've seen this and all of that. And this is a situation for forest fires, of huge environmental tragedies for our country and for our continent. And that has created some horrible problems regarding climate change. Brazil and South America have a huge role in their contribution to the environment. Very unhappily, very unfortunately, the Brazilian government has changed their environmental policies. We don't agree with those, we don't support those, and our cities are actually opposing that because we are making an effort to do environmental preservation, to protect our environment, our environmental areas. Our city is cut down into by a river, and we're actually contributing to that and trying to mitigate climate change, the effects of climate change. We believe in a fair and just system, and that's what we are here. So we oppose those policies by the Brazilian government. We have a small population compared with other cities in Brazil, but we are an important municipality in the large Porto Alegre, which has over 3 million people. And we've developed several very important initiatives as it regards the environment. We, San Leopoldo, are a reference in Brazil as regards that because we have a very old tradition of environmental struggles, of social movements, movements of the civil society and citizens which fight for the preservation of our river, of our waters, and of our environmental riches, which are plenty. So, speaking about the national context, these are the figures. In Brazil, 83% of our electricity comes from renewables. 63% hydroelectric, wind power it's 9.3, biomass and biogas 8.9, and centralized solar 1.4. So the potential that we have for renewables in Brazil is huge. We are actually building new initiatives in this regard. We are nonetheless vulnerable to the crisis. We have the worst water management crisis in the last 91 years, and because of lack of management, we are creating we are using the maximum thermoelectric part in the mix of energy generation in our country that we've ever had, than ever before, sorry, in our history. So we are committed cities, committed with mitigating and facing and countering climate change, so that the challenge is actually even larger. We are undergoing efforts in this respect because the national policies are going berserk. The cities must be prepared for the worst possible scenario. In Sao Paulo, we have a an energy planning that is part of a larger plan which was built with the participation of the civil society, and I actually invite my colleague Anderton. He is the Secretary of the Environment. I am the Secretary of Culture and International Relationships in San Paulo. So actually, Anderson, before doing that, he was the head of the SEMI, which is our water company. Anderson is going to be speaking Portuguese. But actually, if he speaks slowly, I think most people will understand. And he's going to present is the environmental plan of San Leopoldo. Very good afternoon. The water crisis that Pedro was speaking about is part of a water management crisis. We have a huge risk of a power blackout because of our lack of capacity for generating energy, given the conditions that we have now. So, other than the destruction of the Amazon, the fact that we are destroying the Amazon has a huge impact in our rivers. And the city of San Leopoldo features a municipal law stabilizing a system. It's actually very difficult to translate from Portuguese. The interpretation team was never notified about this. We will try to do our best, but this is a very challenging situation. The city of San Leopoldo has several concepts for a decentralized energy management. I am the Secretary of the Environment. I'm also the President for the Committee of the Water Management Area. This is the very first committee, the one that was first instituted in Brazil or created in Brazil in 1988. There is a conflict between the different users, the industry, the farmers, and the water supply plants. We have created a municipal plan for the management of electricity generation. It's called PLAMG. There's a first place. We want to save electricity. We want to find the best possible efficiency, and we want to extend this to the public and private consumption in the whole of the municipality. We also want to generate electricity by solar procedures. We have a program for sustainable hydroelectrical efficiency. It's been an experience with great results. We have a turbo generator. We actually use those. We use the power of the waters for generating electricity. And that's good for many things. That's good actually for that's good for reducing the water pressure, and that's good for generating energy. It's a technology that has been adopted by many places in Latin America. San Leopoldo was the first city in Latin America which actually implemented this type of procedure. We have installed photovoltaic panels in the water treatment plants, the sewage treatment plants of Feitoria. That's a pilot program, and we want to do that in all public places in the municipality, schools, libraries, etc. They will all have solar power. As Pedro has already said, the city of San Leopoldo has been pioneering in its actions regarding sustainability. We have had a national acknowledgement for our environmental struggles. We've had a management committee that has implemented very many good measures, and we've also contributed to creating a national law regarding these matters. So, as part of the rector plan of the municipality, we've created incentives to the population in order for them to reuse water, to use rainwater, to use solar panels, etc. Unfortunately, currently, we see that the federal government has reduced the control and the environmental monitoring control of the mechanisms that have been implemented in the past. So, in many cases, those mechanisms have actually known a reduction in their activities. There have been many problems, many environmental problems in some places. There are people literally exterminating these mechanisms. We, on the other hand, in the city of San Leopoldo, we've decided to preserve 700 hectares at the heart of the city. We've decided to create a nature preserve area. And I now give the word back to our secretary. Thank you very much, Anderson. It's important to speak about experiences, but also about future challenges. We are starting to use photovoltaic panels. We are actually trying to implement the SDGs. We have created an energy and climate observatory in order to build common and shared solutions for the implementation of sustainability. We are starting that effort for creating the inventory, which is very important in order to structure all of these policies. Thank you very much, and have a good afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you. Big thanks to the Secretary of Culture and the Secretary of the Environment because they brought a new look from the Marco Cities Network to Bilbao. We also have La Paz online. Are you there, La Paz? Yes, we are. Okay, we have Jose Carlos Campero from La Paz. We have a hybrid format here that has been enabled by Zoom Bilbao. We have yet another colleague from Merco Ciudades. He's, as I say, Jose Carlos Campero Núñez del Prado. He now has the floor. Thank you for sharing your perspectives as part of this side event, Jose Carlos. Good afternoon, Marcela. Hello from La Paz. Within the framework of our policy for decarbonization of the city, sustainable policies are very important. There's a huge trend from our automobile park here. We are the capital, the political capital of our country. We have about 900,000 inhabitants and a little bit less than but we actually have in 2021 we have almost 500,000 vehicles. So it's actually more than one vehicle every two inhabitants, and that is a very worrying matter because we have some features regarding we have some pollution problems in La Paz, and they are mostly due to transportation. Bolivia produces hydrocarbons, and there are subsidies when it deals with transportation. The figures are the following: from 2006 2019, we spent almost $7 billion in subsidies, and we think that between 2020 and 2030, that's going to reach almost $11 billion, and that's very worrying for a national treasury. We also speak about our natural gas reserves. Brazil and Argentina are main export countries. In the absence of important policies for exploration, there is a very near future. The best scenario says that our reserves will no longer be there in 2020. The worst scenario is 2027. So we're going to have to become a net importer of hydrocarbons in order to cater for our automobiles, not just in La Paz, but in the rest of the country as well. In terms of the urban mobility in the city, 75% of the vehicles are used mostly to go to the working place, to go to university or to go to school. If we see the composition of the vehicles, the type of vehicles, 76% of those vehicles, of those 500,000 vehicles, is traditional transportation, which in the case of La Paz is public transportation, public-private transportation, and private-private transportation. Public transportation is a common type of transportation. Actually, public-private transportation is a collective way of transportation, but it's private companies who do it. But then there is the 100% public transportation, but that's only 1% of the usability. And the telepheric have the largest network for that is only 2.9%. It's not even 3%. So we don't even have 5% of the demand for 100% public transportation for the whole city. There is another important aspect. If you see the size of the arrows, you see that electric vehicles are we see that the cost per kilometer is a lot lower for electric vehicles than for diesel cars or from gasoline cars. So if we start a transition, if we start to substitute diesel and gas powered cars for electric ones, there's going to be some huge savings, both for users, for private users, and for public users, and also for the public administrations, both the central one and the municipality. As a country, we produce more electricity than we take. Our offer was 3.2 gigawatt, sorry, and we only took about 1.5 gigawatt. So we have a huge buffer that can become a very important opportunity in order to promote electromobility. So that's what we have. We have done some progresses in the city. We have a cable car or cable railway. We have that has been promoted by the federal government. We have more than 10 lines. It's a sort of metro service. It's an air metro service. It's the only service, cable car service in the world. We've implemented the two first municipal transportation system in La Paz and in El Alto. It's La Paz Bus and the Huayna Bus, and also National Guard for Transportation. We've created in both municipal governments some mobility secretaries. And we're actually going to study anything having to do with mobility. For the past 2 months, the central government has actually created some new norms, establishing reduction to zero um, for the import taxes for electrical hybrid cars, and in a joint way in the three most important cities in Bolivia, La Paz, Cochabamba, uh, and Santa Cruz, we are creating a new network for electric charging stations. We have 23 vehicles, uh, hybrid and electric ones. So, so we have been doing, we've been trying to improve in our planning because so far there's been almost zero planning regarding this. We have a municipal transportation with a very high quality of service that's been acknowledged by the users, but with a very low sustainability. In the case of La Paz, the subsidies for the public transportation is up to 84% of its cost. So we have a municipal police that has almost the same attributions and functions of the national police, so there are many problems for their coordination. We have an approach of the improvement of the public-private traditional transportation that is close to zero. There's no approach to improving that. And we have an inter-municipality or metropolitan transportation that is only the cable car joining La Paz and El Alto, the two most important cities in the department. Therefore, regarding this overall balance, this general balance, from shortly before the pandemic, and that's been actually increased because of the pandemic, we have an integral holistic solution to public transportation, which is ever more complex. Uh, the interaction between the public and the public-private transportation is ever more complicated. There are political interests and economic interests, and that has elevated the costs of implementing and increased the difficulty for implementing policies. So there is a damage, a deterioration of the quality of the public transportation in La Paz. There are also the trade unions. Those trade unions usually have a seat in El Alto, and there's a political um, um, war between them, between those people and La Paz. There has been a deterioration of the air quality levels, especially during the past 5 years. And the levels of insecurity of the vehicles have been increased. There have been robberies, um, um, which have been increasing for the past few years. And regarding green mobility, we don't have any of that yet. It's so far it's only been part of the speech. It's the central government who has all powers, all competencies regarding that. From the department and the local levels, there have been some initiatives, but there have been so far no calls from the central government in order to coordinate around such an important theme regarding the energy crisis challenges. Um, are going to face because of our shortage of hydrocarbons, either and disappearance actually of hydrocarbons in either 2027 or 2030. Some of the suggestions is that we have to incorporate into the new paradigm in a very important way by the implementation of state policies in order to stimulate the change of paradigm and the creation of a fund helping us to finance the electromobility policies in the three main cities in Bolivia. We would need about $3,000, which is not a very high figure to consider. Secondly, a design and implementation of the tarification and management system of electric charging stations in the country, implementation of municipal policies in order to foster electromobility, but making sure that they will not distort the current logic, the implementation of departmental policies in order to foster electromobility and the installation of electric charging posts, electric chargers actually, creating economic advantages, and speaking and taking the benefit of the advantages of the implementation of electromobility. We have to implement some solid and ambitious policies in order to implement electromobility. We have to go into sustainability. We have to incorporate some electric vehicles, but also have to generate the conditions for the maintenance infrastructure and of these vehicles, and for the access for quick or public charging of these vehicles. So fast and ultra-fast charging in public areas and regular charging in private domains. And also we have to work about tax and not tax stimuli in order to increment the number of imported of hybrid and electric vehicles which be imported. Especially for the public transportation vehicles, in order to try to change those into electric. Oh, please go back. Thank you. So the elimination of tariffs for electric vehicles and electric vehicle parts, to lower the municipal taxes to those. We have a Bolivian company producing electric vehicles called Quantum, and in an impressive way, it has it cannot operate because there is no legislation in order to get vehicles which are not diesel or gasoline based. So it's been given some special tax up until there is new legislation there. We also need some new curricula at the professional schools and universities in order to have a sustainable post-sale service for electric and hybrid vehicles. And also those services should be national, not associated to the importing brands of these vehicles. Thank you very much, Marcela. That was on my part, on the experience of Bolivia and more concretely in La Paz. Thank you very much for your presentations. We're learning a lot from that, and hopefully in the next meetings of Mercosidades we'll be able to see each other in person. Thank you very much, Jose Carlos. This is Marcela. Hello to you from Bilbao, from the city of Bilbao. Thank you very much for your presentation. We will continue the dialogue, and as you say, in the in-person way, very briefly. Last side event, intervention from Merco cities and the challenges for the transition towards a new energy model in Latin America. We give the floor to Omar Luis Farran. He's the president of the APIMED Association of Small and Medium Enterprises in Tandil. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having invited me to this important event. I come to the private sector. Coming from Argentina, I'm used to doing adjustments, to adjusting myself to changes, and I will do that. Latin America has changed. We've seen that during the past few decades. Smaller cities have become metropolis, and metropolis have become megalopolis. But public services, urban mobility infrastructure, financing, the right to a sustainable and environmentally friendly city, and the public and private sector association are still challenging themes, and they are challenging the whole region. We have no time left, so I'm not going to give you very many data that I was meaning to give you. So I'll just go to the part that I think it's more interesting. When the Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio says that his colleagues, the cardinals, have come to the end of the world to elect the new pope, well, he's right, but they went to Buenos Aires. We are even further away from the end of the world, according to the Pope. That's my city. That's the city of Tandil in the province of Buenos Aires. That's the province of Buenos Aires, the city of Tandil. We are about 170 kilometers away from the port of Mar del Plata. We are about 350 kilometers away from the obelisk of Buenos Aires. We're part of the Web Pampa. It's a very rich mining, dairy product area. That's where we produce good meats, good cheeses, and it's a very important industrial area, together with Rosario, Cordova, and one part of Buenos Aires. So that's the city of Tandil. These are some of the some pictures of Tandil. It's a tourist area. It's famous for this stone. It's called the moving stone. 300,000 tons in 1 square centimeter. It kept that way until 2012. Part of it fell down, and Tandil became famous for this. And actually, some of our mining tradition comes from those sierras. Tandil has had difficulties with generating energy, but about 4 years ago, we tried to create a thermal energy solar thermal energy plant, but the citizens said no, so we went to photovoltaic and wind power. That made it so that 15% of the energy of our city is produced by us, by the factory of Tandil, which is a PPP development. When we think what is the contribution we can make when developing renewable energies, thermal electrical plants are very polluting. We are we have a population of about 140,000 people. We believe that the PPPs, the public partner public-private partnerships, make this possible, and we are part of the Argentinian Republic. And there are many things that we cannot choose, but whenever there is a wish for investment, we have a firm, a company here, the TMH. That's the largest railway company in the world. It's Russian. We also have the Russian embassy. They are investing on passenger trains and on cargo trains. The Russian embassy, they are trying to help this company. There is also a university in this area. There's also the planning agency, which belongs to the ministry for the planning ministry of the nation. It has a seat in Tandil. Our company, I actually am the owner of Talleres Tandil Workshops, and we are actually suppliers for all these people. And we also have the association to which 330 companies belong. It's most of the companies in our area. Then there's the Tandil municipality and the Pladima. So this is an alliance, and what do we do? How do we contribute? How do we contribute to a more sustainable development? Well, I'm going to try to explain this. There are two ways of accelerating a vehicle. First of all, by pushing the gas pedal, and then it's by taking away the cargo. In Argentina, we lost our rail network. In the 90s, almost all of the villages inside the country, there were many villages that were alive when they eliminated the railway. There was no population there. We had something very important, that was the railways, right? So one way of improving mobility with a smaller smaller pollution is actually the railway. It's much more ecological, but we've lost it. We need to get it back, first of all, and then we need to modernize this, to update it. And that would be actually a lot quicker than transforming the whole truck infrastructure that we have and change it, transform it from diesel to battery electric. We thought that one of the ways in which we could contribute to a better way of consuming energy, to a way of generating less CO2 and minimizing the climate change impacts, we have to come, we have to go, uh, could only be done actually if we we get our railways back, and if we transform those railways in electric railways, which will go from the inner country into the capital. We're opening up some public procurement options or opportunities, and we have a company that is interested in that, which is TMH. For cargo, it's Vaca Muerta, actually, which is the most interested. That's a shale gas area. It's actually quite paralyzed now, but we think that in the future that will change. And we think that all of that will go to the port of Necochea and then to the port of the Mar del Plata. All of that will be carried out by railway. All of these private entities are working together in order to create a much more sustainable cargo and personnel network. Not a lot of people are interested in investing on that, but there are always some people, and we found them, and we understand that if we create this, it would be possible actually to create a much more sustainable city, a much better mobility. In Tandil, the most important transportation that we have is actually bikes. People take bikes to go to work, people walk to work. We go about as, in the streets as though we were a very small town. And we have adopted solar and wind instead of thermoelectric, so we believe this is going to work in our town. Thank you very much. That was all on my part. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. This is already the closure of this side event. Thank you very much to the organizer of the San Bilbao 21 2021. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting the Merco cities, Merco ciudades, and why not have a new Congress for Sustainable Urban Mobility in Latin America next year in order to expand and disseminate all of this. Thank you very much again for your invitation. Thank you very much for the participation, and we trust that we will be able to get a new Sustainable Mobility Congress in Latin America together with the town of Bilbao, within the framework of international cooperation, and together with the businesses and companies that have funded this effort. There is a lot to do in our cities, in our region, and there is a lot to learn as well. Thank you very much. I think we all deserve a round of applause.